I want to talk to you about something that I heard recently that I'm calling hypocrisy and online church. I heard about a discussion among some people who had watched the same television preacher. Apparently, during his rather animated sermon, he declared with incredible greatness and conviction that online church is not real church. The crowd apparently shouted their amens, shook their heads in agreement. But the hilarious part to me was that the majority of the people who were watching him weren't even in that room. They weren't even in that church building. They were watching him, get this, online, on a television broadcast, through a camera, through the very medium that he claims doesn't count. Folks, that's not conviction, that's hypocrisy. It really is. You know, for decades, television ministries have been celebrated as spreading the gospel. But what, suddenly now that the internet is the dominant medium and that it's available to more people, that this is our line in the sand? This is where church now stops counting? Who decided that? I mean, so think about it. So does that mean preaching then through a television lens in the 1980s is holy, but preaching through an iPhone camera or a single camera broadcasting on YouTube in 2025 is now heresy? Come on, man. Online church isn't the enemy of the church. It's simply the latest tool in the long line of tools. The long line of tools that God's people have always used. Think about the Apostle Paul for a moment. He didn't pastor a mega church. He didn't travel every Sunday hitting a different service time slot. He wrote letters that took a long time to write. In fact, he had to dictate some of them. And then they were carried across miles of terrain, handed to a congregation, and read aloud wherever believers gathered, often in someone's home. Paul was, in effect, preaching through the most advanced communication medium and technology of his day: ink, parchment, and a courier. Imagine if Paul had the tools that we have now, and imagine telling him, hey, Paul, you can live stream a message to thousands, hundreds of thousands of people all at once, all across the known world. And then imagine the Apostle Paul responding back, no thanks. That doesn't count as church. Really? Absolutely not. He used every medium available. He already did. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, Hebrews 10:25. People will say, but Bob, Hebrews 10:25 says, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together, as is the manner of some. Oh, we got you there, right? You know, that verse gets thrown around like a theological hand grenade every time the topic of online church comes up. But look closely at the verses in their context. Put them back in their context. The writer wasn't warning people against using technology. It didn't even exist. He was addressing believers who were abandoning community altogether out of fear and pressure. The point wasn't location. The point was participation. The call was, don't isolate. Don't withdraw. Stay connected. Stay engaged. Online church, when done well, doesn't isolate people, but it connects them. It brings shut-ins into worship. It includes the sick, the traveling, the lonely, the searching. It gathers people who otherwise wouldn't be gathered at all. I don't know about you, but to me that sounds a lot more like obeying Hebrews 10:25 than pretending someone isn't part of the church because they watched from a screen. Look, here's the truth. The gospel has never been confined to a room or a building or a zip code. The only place the gospel has ever been confined is in our minds, in our traditions, in our past. And that is a problem of our own ego.